With the reveal of Call of Duty 2023 just around the corner, hopefully we're going to get some ideas about what's coming to DMZ over the next year. In this video, I'm going to take you through 5 things that I think will be coming to DMZ over the next few months. Number 1, I think the narrative is going to change. I think we've already seen the beginning of this. If you check out my recent video where I talked about how the Season 5 narrative for the missions seems to be building up to the Call of Duty 2023 reveal event, at least as far as I can tell with the information we have, I think that's going to carry on, and that's absolutely awesome. The story in DMZ has been kind of terrible so far. There's a bunch of different factions. I don't think many people who play DMZ really have any idea what any of the factions are, where they're from, what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve, what their relationships with each other are. It's just a bit of a mess with a bunch of missions that are all about the gameplay rather than the story. And obviously it's better it's that way around. I'd much rather they focused on the gameplay than the story, but it'd be nice if we had both. So with this renewed interest in the story, with this kind of focus on the story with Season 5 and the Shadow Company faction, I'm hoping that's going to carry on into Call of Duty 2023. I really think it's likely that the factions will end up being a big part of Call of Duty 2023, and I think we'll see the events of the campaign of the next game kind of having repercussions in Al Mazrah, on Ashika Island, in Vondel, and we'll kind of play through that in DMZ, and maybe with some new locations from the new game as well. I think that would be pretty cool. It'd be just nice if they really had a plan for DMZ, and it was kind of building up towards something so we could make sense of why we're doing the things we're doing. On the topic of maps, I haven't put any of these items as anything to do with maps because we seem to be getting maps fairly frequently for DMZ anyway, so I'd assume that will carry on, that we'll keep on getting maps as it goes forward, you know, tiny ones like Building 21, and then sometimes much bigger things like Vondel. I assume that will carry on, and with Call of Duty 2023, whatever locations that's taking us to, I assume we'll see some new Warzone and DMZ maps tied to that. So number 2 on my list are the weapons and vehicles from Call of Duty 2023 and DMZ. This is the safest one on the list. This is one that's almost definitely going to happen. I do think there was kind of mixed success with Warzone 1 and trying to integrate all of the games into it. You know, trying to put all of the guns from Black Ops Cold War into it, and then trying to do the same thing with Vanguard. It didn't work all that well. But with kind of the idea that maybe Call of Duty 2023 is going to be not too different from the last game, I assume that whatever kind of the main new weapons in it, and I always assume we'll get new weapons in Call of Duty, and whatever the new vehicles will be, we'll probably start seeing those in DMZ, and that'll be like a big content drop. Maybe we'll even get some missions and things like that surrounding them to try and get us used to them. Now, it'd be a real shame if the new weapons were all just kind of variants of assault rifles and sniper rifles and shotguns and SMGs, like all of the weapons we have. Like, if they do another assault rifle, I can't imagine how it would be that different. It'd be nice if they had a focus on maybe more experimental weaponry, maybe some of the sorts of things that we used to see in Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, if any of you remember that game, where you had like a gun that had the barrel attached to like a camera and it could look around corners. That was pretty cool. Stuff like that would be really interesting. Some like more experimental, more unusual weapons could be kind of fun. But whatever they are, I'm sure they'll be coming to DMZ. And in terms of vehicles, it's kind of hard to think about what kind of vehicles we'd like to see added to DMZ. Let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas. The one thing that I would really like to see is a bicycle. Now we've got the motorbikes in, I think they're a huge amount of fun, but one of the problems with using vehicles in DMZ is that they give your location away. Like on the minimap, people can see that you're using them, they make a lot of noise. I think it'd be pretty cool if there were bicycles, and it makes sense especially for Vondel, you know, that being in Amsterdam, that we would have bicycles. We'd have something that is pretty much completely silent, like you can't hear it unless they're really close to you. They wouldn't show up on the minimap at all, so they'd just help you get around a little bit faster, and doing things like riding down hills and stuff like that, like going from the top of Mount Zaya on a bicycle, I think could be absolutely loads of fun. Other than that, I struggle to think of what other kind of vehicles they could add. Obviously, they could put tanks in DMZ, although I think that would be quite controversial. Maybe something like a mobile SAM site or an artillery piece or something like that. But again, we're starting to talk about things that seem a little bit too powerful to show up in DMZ, especially when lots of people are already complaining about the MRAP. I would say maybe they'd put in a little submarine, but that seems like a little bit, I don't know, distasteful right now. But do let me know if you've got any ideas of vehicles that you would like to see in DMZ. I'd be super interested to hear from you. Right, number 3, and from now on I'm being a little bit more hopeful. These are ideas that are a little bit more out there, but they're things that I'm really hoping we see in DMZ over the next year. So the first one, and probably the biggest, weirdest one, is RPG elements for characters. Right now, I think one of the biggest problems with DMZ is that you don't really lose that much when you die. Obviously, you can lose keys, you can lose items, you can lose weapons, but it's pretty easy to get everything back in the game right now. Once you've been playing for a while, you know how to do a regame. Today, we died a bunch of times while I was streaming, and we managed to get everything back within about 5 minutes of the start of the next game every single time. It was just really straightforward, and it means that you don't really worry about dying too much. I'd like it if, as the characters survive a bit longer, rather than just having the exfil streak, which is a cool idea, this is kind of an expansion on that, it would be cool if they had almost like RPG stats. So things like, if any of you play games like Morrowind and Oblivion, where rather than putting stats into things, you just leveled up abilities by using them. It'd be cool if the same kind of thing happened in DMZ. So maybe if you reload a lot, your character slowly gets a bit faster at reloading, and there'd have to be a cap per game, just to stop people from like going in the game and constantly reloading. I mean, or maybe that could be a thing that, you know, your character likes practicing reloading. Or they could do things like moving a bit faster once you've run a certain distance, have a bit more carry weight, and obviously they'd have to add weight to items. I do think they should add weight to items. It seems ridiculous that you can carry around like 8 car batteries or, you know, 30 or so rockets. That seems absolutely insane. It'd be nice if they added some weight to items, so you being a bit stronger and being able to carry more would actually be something that would be useful. And you can maybe have things like faster vehicle repairs. You know, once you've fixed a bunch of vehicles, you get a bit more efficient at doing it. I think stuff like that would be really cool, and it means once you had a character that had leveled up a bunch of those stats, a character that had been around for a while, they'd got better at everything, losing that character would seem like a much bigger deal. And it would be something where if an enemy team rezzed you, it didn't even matter if they stole your stuff. You'd be fine with them stealing your stuff as long as they rezzed you, so you could still extract and keep that character alive. Because right now, your character really is just your stuff. I know the exfil streaks are kind of cool, but to be honest, I barely even notice them most of the time when I'm playing in-game. Right, number 4, again, very ambitious. I'd love there to be a Call of Duty World War II style headquarters. For anyone who didn't play that game, instead of having kind of a lobby for the game, you would go into the headquarters. It was like a separate play area where there'd be a bunch of other players running around, and you could do things like you could fight other players, there was a firing range, you could buy the bundles and stuff like that, sort of open up your supply boxes and stuff like that there. There was a couple of cool little Easter eggs on it. There was meant to be this thing where everyone got into AA guns and shot planes down. I'm not sure how often that actually ran. But there was a lot of cool stuff going on there. And, you know, when it was Christmas, it would be snowy there and stuff like that. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'd love for there to be something like that with DMZ, but kind of unique to each player. So if you were like the host of a party, you would be inviting the other players into your bunker, into your base, whatever it was, and you could spend money and get items out of the game to expand that. So you could add things like a firing range, a gunsmith in there. Maybe you could add some fun cosmetic stuff to show off in there. You know, you get out $10 million from DMZ and you can buy a big golden throne that you can sit on in your area, or some cool lighting or stuff like that. I think it would add a nice kind of sense of progression, and it would give them something else to give away in things like battle passes or in bundles and stuff like that. Something that's not gameplay based, but would actually be a lot of fun. You know, I'd like it if I could get cosmetic things for my base. Basically, I'd be like playing The Sims in Call of Duty, but I think that'd be a lot of fun. You could even maybe pay to build like a gulag style area so you could practice against your friends and try different tactics and things like that. I just think that would be absolutely awesome. Then finally, and the biggest one, and one that I can kind of imagine happening, and I'm sort of surprised they haven't done it already, and that's zombies. I'm really surprised with how well Outbreak seemed to be received by a lot of players. You know, a lot of people who never played zombies before with Black Ops Cold War got into Outbreaks. It was a big open world thing. It was a little bit easier, a little bit simpler to understand. You could play with your friends, go in, complete some missions and get out. Why haven't they combined that with DMZ? DMZ seems absolutely perfect for zombies. You could literally just replace all of the AI with zombies, maybe make the maps at night time, add a few props around to make it look a bit spookier, you know, replace some of the props with different models, so there's like some skulls and stuff around it like they did with the Vanguard Zombies maps. But then have the missions, make them a little bit more arcane, you know, you're opening portals, you're trying to get artifacts and stuff like that. I think with the PvPvE side of DMZ, this could be absolutely awesome. That, you know, sometimes you're having to get through zombie hordes, but then you see other players and you need to decide whether to fight them or not. And maybe sometimes you'd team up with those other players to take on big, like, zombie bosses and stuff. I just think it would be awesome, and I feel like so much of it would work just with the mechanics of DMZ being exactly as they are now. Just change the enemies to zombies. I really, really hope that this happens, and maybe if it doesn't happen with Call of Duty 2023, which I think Sledgehammer's meant to be making, maybe it'll happen next year with Treyarch's game, because, you know, Treyarch are the kings of zombies. Maybe they're the ones who'll make it happen. So that's my list. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye. They've gone out a long way that way. Here we go. I'm going this way. Oh god. Oh god, I missed. Oh, I got in. I got in. I got in.
Блядь, ты со своей машиной.
That worked beautifully. What were they even shooting us with then? A grenade launcher or something?